Welcome to the Determined Mom Show, the only marketing podcast dedicated to guiding mom CEOs into tranquility, wealth, and multiplying those precious moments. Welcome to the Determined Mom Show, and I have a very special guest, Calandra Martin, and she is going to be sharing with us today how to optimize your website for conversions, which is a very, very important topic because if you have people coming and they just leave and never come back, then that's a problem. So welcome, Calandra.
Thank you, Amanda. I'm so excited to be here and talking about conversions on a website is one of my favorite things to talk about.
Awesome. I love it. All right. So before we jump into the main topic, I want to ask you about how you got started in working from home, how you got started in your business, and all of those things.
Yeah, I'll try to give you the Cliff Notes version. Essentially, I started my business about 3 years ago now, and I like to say that I started my business simultaneously and at the same time as becoming a mom, which was really just jumping off of the deep end. I had dabbled in network marketing prior to having my son, and the second that he was born, honestly, before he was born, I really decided that I didn't want to go back to a regular 9 to 5 and be away from him. So I decided to go all in the online business space, not having any idea what I was getting myself into or what I was doing for that matter. And I pivoted quite a few times in the last 3 years and finally found my home and my passion and obsession in branding and helping online entrepreneurs stand out in the online space because it's a really, really busy place to be in, especially now in the world that we're living in. And it's something that lights me up and really helps me fuel every area of my life. So I'm a little bit obsessed with what I do now.
That's awesome. I love it. I love that story. So what were you doing before? Like, what is your background or history in?
Yeah, I was a college dropout. So I went into college having no idea what I wanted to do in the world.
Yep.
Dropped out of college, knew that I didn't want to spend the money on something that I wasn't committed to. Jumped from job to job. I was a barista. I was a doggy daycare attendant. I worked in a couple preschools. There was a lot of like random things that kind of all funneled into making me who I am today. And I'm grateful for every one of them, but it's kind of completely off topic from what I do now. So that's, a lot of jumping around, a lot of moving around, and becoming a business owner allowed me to look at who I really wanted to be, which was a lot of fun to create and design.
Yeah, I love that. And I think it's really inspiring for people to know that you can create an awesome, amazing business and you can create the life that you want, regardless of the different things that you've done in the past. I literally have almost the identical story to you, which is hilarious. We talked about that before, but I have that same thing. I actually have a degree in interior design. I was a personal trainer. Like, there's all these like crazy, weird things that I did. I owned a pottery studio, like all these different like random things, but it's all that experience is culminating into, my business and that kind of thing. So I think it's awesome that you have that same experience and just knowing that, you can kind of bundle it all up and make something amazing out of it.
Yeah, it's so interesting to see how you can take the pieces of yourself and create a brand and a presence and a business out of something that doesn't necessarily make sense maybe to the outside world.
Yeah. Yeah. And so if you don't know Calandra, she's actually a branding, organic social media, marketing, and design specialist. So she kind of encompasses all of those things. And she is like the epitome of her work. So, it's awesome.
Yeah, it's really funny to look back on every transition along the way and looking at, that's how I got here. It all makes sense now. But at the time, I had no idea.
Yeah. Yeah, I love it. Awesome. So let's go ahead and talk about how we need to optimize our website for conversions.
Yeah. So you kind of touched on this in the beginning of the episode and just sharing why conversions are important. So what I see a lot of the time is that entrepreneurs know they need a website because everybody else has one, but they don't necessarily know why they need a website or what the purpose is that it serves your business. So before we go into tips and strategy, I really want to point out the importance of what a website does for you and for your business. So for my clients and myself and my business, what I find to be the most beneficial aspect of having a website is that you get those conversions. And when you look at conversions, what that really means is getting people through the door, getting them aware of what you do, what your business is, what your brand is all about, and then keeping them around. So opening up the opportunity to nurture them, to build a relationship, which leads to the sale, which is the ultimate goal of your business. So it is really this machine that works 24/7 for your business. And it's something that once you work on it and you create it in a sense that you really feel proud of it, it does the work for you on the back end.
I love that. It's like a marketing machine, and that lead generation piece is really the ultimate goal, or, the ultimate goal of that website, right? But then that conversion is the key. I love it.
Yeah. And what I find a lot of people tend to do is they think that the website is just the storefront, right? It's just the thing that looks pretty and makes you look professional. And while that's true, it also has to do something to support your business. You can't just dump the money and time into it just to have it look nice.
Yeah. And I think that's a huge misconception. I do a lot of website building for people. So, making sure that all those things are in place is also a really important part of it, and making sure your website can be even found on Google or, like all of these things is really important. So there's like a whole package of things that go into it. And I think you bring up such a valuable point, is that people don't really understand the why behind having a website. And I love that you brought that up.
Yeah, it's very important. And I was somebody who didn't necessarily understand why I needed it until I made one.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly. And now you have a beautiful website, and I love the quiz that's on there. I think that's awesome. It pops up and allows people to, kind of understand themselves and what their direction is. So I love it.
Yeah, that's my favorite. Prized possessions, the brand personality quiz. I love it too.
Yeah. Okay, so go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. So my first tip for website conversion is really to know the purpose of your site. So we're talking kind of in the grand scheme of things, knowing why conversion and having a website is important. But when people go into designing a website, especially if you are DIYing it, doing it yourself, you're not working with a designer or a coach, it can get really messy really quick and you can get lost in what it is that you're actually creating. So before I work with clients, and one of my biggest tips is really to set the intention of the website. So for example, talking about my website, the brand personality quiz is my number one opt-in on that site. It is the thing that I want people to take action on. So before you go and create a bunch of pages, you have to know what that call to action is. And then you can start placing things strategically to get people to convert. So knowing that primary purpose is like the very, very first step before you even create an account, before you start getting colors and pictures and all of the fun stuff for the website. You really have to be intentional on what the purpose is for your website.
Yeah. And that's sometimes hard for people to identify. So do you have any guidelines? So so let's say my website is an e-commerce website, or, that kind of thing. Is that what you mean by purpose? Or do you mean like what action you want people to take?
Yeah, so I typically work with a lot of coaches, network marketers, service providers in the online space. And generally that is taking into consideration the entire funnel of your business, the user experience, your audience's experience. So if somebody is coming to you for the very first time, you have to think about what their initial impression is of you and what you want that second impression to be. So I almost think of it like a second date. Your homepage is the first date where you're really, hooking them in, you're getting them excited about what you have to share with them. And then your opt-in, your conversion, is going to lead to that second date where you get to know them a little bit better. You give them just a little taste of what it is that you have to offer. So it could be a connection call, a discovery call. It could be getting on your mailing list. There's a lot of different options for that. It could be a low-cost offer that you're calling them into, listening to your podcast. I mean, the options are endless, but you really want to be specific on what that is. and not overwhelm people with a bunch of different options, because then it gets to be too much for the user.
Okay. That's a great explanation. And I think it really gives that idea, narrows it down for people. And then that way they can figure out what they want to serve to them. So thank you. Awesome.
My second tip that kind of piggybacks off of that is looking at how you communicate your business. So when we're creating a website, and especially for those of us that might DIY it, which I certainly did in the beginning, I built 3 or 4 websites before I even shared one with the world, is we get wrapped up in the visuals, which are really, really important. As a brand strategist and a designer, the visuals do a lot of the work, but so does the communication in your written words. So when I work with clients for web design, they typically come to me with not much prepared, and it's a matter of looking at the outline of the pages and then the content that goes in the pages and how you're communicating your message. So having the purpose identified is the first step, really. And then you want to look at the experience on every single page on your website and how you're communicating your business. Working with a copywriter is really helpful for that, but it's also just important to know what that user experience would look like so that you can use the right language, so that you can place your opt-ins and your buttons in all of the right places, to really prompt that conversion to happen.
Okay, that's awesome. I love that. And I think it's definitely, that is probably the biggest thing that's overlooked on most websites and things like that. Obviously, most of them have an opt-in of some sort. It might not be the right one, and it might not have a distinctive purpose, but this is really, really key. So,
yeah, I think the purpose piece is really important. So if you're setting up an opt-in and calling people into something on your website, you want it to reflect what you want that next step to be. So looking at the bigger picture and kind of reverse engineering what your opt-in might be is going to help get those conversions to actually matter. It's all fine and dandy if you have somebody signing up for your email list, but if they're not actually interested in your paid offer because your opt-in has nothing to do with it, then it starts to get a little bit tricky. So really having that intention and purpose, and then communicating that throughout every aspect of your website.
Awesome.
And all right. I have one more tip.
Awesome.
Which is a very, very important one. And that is really just to keep it simple. And I could probably reiterate that 100 times. And as humans, we'll still overcomplicate it all. But the more that you can keep it simple and prepare yourself ahead of time, it's going to help the process feel easier and really help you stay out of the pattern of going down the rabbit hole. And with design and with websites, it's easy to do that, right? We have templates and we have pretty graphics and all of the things, social media accounts that we want to highlight. So knowing ahead of time what your brand identity is, your visual guidelines, knowing what contact information you're putting on your site, the clear call to action, the opt-in, and really just knowing the messaging around your website. Those core elements are going to help you show up and keep that website super simple so that the user experience isn't confusing. Yeah. Because what I see, unfortunately, a lot of times is a website that has 25 pages and a bunch of different things on it. And that confuses our brains as humans, as people who are looking for instant gratification in the world that we live in today. Keeping it simple is really going to help with that conversion as well.
Yeah. I agree 100%. I know it's very tempting to add lots of bells and whistles and things like that. And especially with all of the different types of websites and things like that there are, it's super easy to overdo it. I am guilty of that from time to time. And I've had to, I completely always go back and I'm like, oh, I need to redo this website altogether. I just redid my membership site because I was like, oh, I don't like that. So I completely wiped it clean and completely redid it. And it's just one of those things where I was like, okay, I just have to simplify. And yeah, exactly what you're saying.
Yeah, and it helps sometimes to have an outside perspective too. If you're finding yourself getting totally sucked in, send it to somebody that has an eye and an understanding of your business to get that feedback, whether it's working with a designer or a coach or somebody else. in your network, that really, really helps, because we get sucked into what our business is and we know what it is in our brain, but we don't always know what it is. We don't translate that to our audience the way that we should.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely think that we do that a lot. And I think it's just natural instinct. It's like, oh, don't you already know what I do? Don't you, like you said, you know what inside your head, and nobody knows it outside unless you tell them exactly what it is. So that's a great idea. Okay. So these are amazing tips for, optimizing for conversions. I love it. And do you have any, this is my little technical side coming out, but do you have any favorite tools that you love for optimizing for conversions?
Yeah, so this is really specific on the platform that you use. So every platform is going to have different functionalities and tools and plugins. The two website platforms that I love are WordPress and Squarespace. On Squarespace, it's very easy to set up something like an email opt-in. So that's already built into that platform. On WordPress, one of the tools that I really love is the Bloom plugin, and this is for newsletter opt-ins. It's amazing. You can create as many different designs as you want, so you can create different opt-ins and publish them and unpublish them as you need to. And they track all of the conversions for you right there on your website so that you can see on the back end what is working. Because the thing with conversions is that you want to know your numbers. If you're just guessing and thinking that something's working, it's not actually going to help you grow that conversion rate. So that's a tool that I really, really love for that in particular.
Awesome. Perfect. I always love to know what everybody's favorite tool is, and that actually is my favorite opt-in tool as well. So yeah, I love Bloom. And it's, if you don't know, it's made by Elegant Themes, which is also the creator of Divi. So the Divi theme.
It's the best.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I use. And I have a course in my membership that's all about Divi. So I love it.
Yeah, it's such a good tool, especially for people that are just getting started and wanting to do it themselves. Very user-friendly.
Yeah, it makes a big difference. So, well, thank you so much for sharing all of this amazing knowledge with us. And I have one last question for you, and that is, what is your favorite thing about being able to work from home and be with your son?
Oh my gosh. Just one thing?
Well, you can tell us as many as you want.
Yeah, I mean, everything about it. But I think the biggest thing that I'm so appreciative right now is the time freedom and the flexibility to set my own schedule. He's in school 3 days a week, which is a blessing. But on the days that he's home, I have the opportunity to take the whole day off if I want to, and really set boundaries around my time and the way that I work as an entrepreneur that, creates the rules. So I think that that's probably my favorite part.
That's awesome. I love that he's in school 3 days a week, and it gives you a little bit of time to kind of focus. I think I have not had that with my 2-year-old since she was born. So that's like the whole purpose, is like she literally has her own little desk and monitor over there. She has her little iMac, whatever that's called. And yeah, it's hilarious, but it works for us. So
yeah. And I think that that's the best thing about entrepreneurship, is you get to find what works for you, and the rest, you get to create it for yourself.
Yeah, I agree. So where is the best place for everyone to find you on the internet?
Yeah, the best place is my website, calandramartin.com. And that links to my podcast, my Facebook group, the social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, and Pinterest. And it's my name everywhere, which is a pretty unique one. So
yeah, I love your name. I was thinking about that. And that's one of the names that I had like when I was like in, I don't know, I guess college, I think. Like, and I was like, oh, I love this name, Calandra. I love it.
I've heard of it before. That's impressive.
Yeah, it's very funny. It was, I won't even tell you where it came from, but tell us a little bit about the Magnetic Boss.
Yeah, the Magnetic Boss is kind of an extension of my personal brand, and it is where I really help empower female entrepreneurs. So we have the collective, which is our free Facebook community, and then we have the membership, which is the paid space where there's so many resources I can't even begin to tell you, all around branding and design and marketing. And then we have the podcast now, which I'm obsessed with as well, which goes out every single week on Wednesday and is full of incredible tips around business growth. And we have guest experts coming on there as well.
Awesome. Okay. Awesome. So definitely check out Calandra and all of her amazing work. And I thank you so much for coming on and sharing your knowledge with us, and also giving us the opportunity to connect with you outside of this podcast.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Amanda, for having me.
You're welcome. Thank you. This episode of the Determined Mom Show is brought to you by the Google My Business Master Course. This course features 6 modules and 18 lessons that will walk you through step by step how you can master Google My Business and get ranking in your industry for the locations you want in just 6 to 9 weeks. This course is robust and it features step-by-step instruction. You can always access it at tdmmarketingacademy.thinkific.com, or you can simply go to thedeterminedmom.com and click on Google My Business course. As a thank you for being a loyal Determined Mom Show listener, you can save 20% by using the code PODCAST.